Hello and welcome to Reimagine 2021. This is our 11th edition, our 11th conference over the past year. We host these events every month and bring you nothing but the best projects, bright minds, and leaders in the space. We've been fortunate enough to, invite many talented individuals like the one I have here today. Not only that, their teams to come speak with us, providing updates, insights, and all the above that's happening in crypto. I'll be your host today, Adam, from the Mousebelt team, where we focus on early stage investments through our accelerator and providing development support to a growing number of projects. Our main objectives is pretty simple. It's increasing adoption, use cases, and real-world applications. Feel free to check out Mousebelt University. We mentor and advise a lot of student clubs and universities around the world. So I'm super excited to have Huobi Exchange here, global strategy, Jeff May. How you doing, man? Thank you. Welcome to the show.
Hey, excited to be here. Thank you.
So we've been doing this now for over a year. Unfortunately, COVID hit, which allowed us this opportunity to really invite industry leaders like yourself and teams and companies, and what we've been working on for the past 4 or 5 years, depending on who you ask. So before we get into it, Jeff, what's your role with the company, and then how did you land, with Huobi Exchange, and what's been your experience, down this blockchain crypto journey path?
Yeah, sure. It's very nice to meet everyone. So I'm the director of global strategy at Huobi, and I'm pretty much heading all of our global expansion initiatives, right? So, as you know, crypto is all over the world. Crypto is in every single place. That's the point of crypto. We need some kind of strategy to kind of get it there, right? Get our exchange, get our service and products into, the hands of everyone. That's kind of what I'm focusing on right now. My story, a quick background about myself. I'm a Los Angeles native. I'm from LA, went to UCLA. I've just been in LA for a lot of my life. But I've always kind of wanted to head to China. This was back in maybe those are 10 years ago. I already had this thought that China was developing so quickly. A lot of tech, a lot of new innovations and technology were kind of coming out from there. So I always wanted to head there. I wanted to kind of learn Chinese, better my Chinese, kind of immerse myself into all the different things going on there. So I headed to China in 2015. And then I started off in just a lot of different tech startups. We worked with 500 startups. We were kind of in the tech zone, the startup little community out there. And then I kind of got into crypto around 2017, 2018. I actually bought my first Bitcoin a while back. This was like a really shady way to buy it for around like $250. That was a long time ago. But in 2018, a lot of people started to ask me, yo, you're from America? Like, can you get Bitcoin? Like, can you get there's like the thing called Ethereum? Like, what can you get this stuff? And I was like, yeah, I can get it. Right. So I started, we formed a team together, and then through, our own creative methods, we're getting crypto in the hands of a lot of Chinese users. So then I kind of got into this space a little bit near that time. And then I joined Huobi over a year ago, and they really needed someone who understood global markets, who knew Chinese, who would kind of piece it all together, right? Become the bridge of Huobi in China, which is the roots are in a Chinese exchange, right? The roots are in China, but of course the services are for everyone. We have users in over 130 countries, right? So they really needed someone to piece this all together. And that's how I kind of got my role here.
Awesome. And we'll get into that, talking about shady transactions, how to buy Bitcoin. So obviously you landed in the right spot when you're talking about, owning Bitcoin, how to buy Bitcoin, and for all those tuning in, right? Like, it's very critical. These are components of the space that we need. Important companies to exchange various digital assets, and we'll get into that shortly. Talking of, and by the way, UCLA, we sponsored one of their first blockchain accredited courses. So proud of that. So go nice. Bruins, go Bruins. And one question that I asked before we get into this interview, this month's conference is around NFTs, DAOs, and kind of government's impact on global adoption, really, and I'm sure you're experiencing all three. But before we get into that, you as an owner of Bitcoin, you going to China, people asking about Bitcoin. What does Bitcoin mean to you? Right? It's financial freedom. Is it just a digital currency? Like, how do you view Bitcoin when you first saw it, and maybe where you see it now? And what are your thoughts around Bitcoin as a cryptocurrency or a blockchain native DApp or software? Like, what's your thoughts on Bitcoin?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, more directly, more easily, I think Bitcoin, of course, as a store of value, I think it's functionally, it's very functional, right? Everyone can use it. It's easily shared. You don't have to go through a lot of, I mean, this is good and bad, but like a lot of legal restrictions and parameters and all these hoops to jump through to share share something, right? But to me, it actually, I like how the roots of Bitcoin started. It means so much more than that. It means that, a community, something that's not a government, it's just a community of people, right, created this one thing that had adoption around the world. Something that was made by, a couple guys in the beginning, guys or girls, we don't know, right? A couple people in the beginning, but it got traction and people recognized it. So for me, it's like a symbol. A Bitcoin is really like a symbol of how there can be something that can unite the world, right? I mean, there's a lot of, politics and hate and all this, conflicts going on here and there. But Bitcoin just shows that, no, if there's something that a lot of people believe in, everyone can get together and approach this one thing, right? And even the Bitcoin today, the value over 60,000, it's because of the adoption of the acceptance from all the people around the world, right? That's how the value is so high. And that's why it is a store of value, right? This consensus among, communities in any country or region. So that's what it means to me. It means that, people can do something, people can expand these possibilities, and people can have something created from scratch that the whole world can recognize. That, I think that's like almost doing the impossible. So it gives hope. I think Bitcoin really gives me hope.
Awesome. And one of the things, which is great, I think we have people just getting into the space. Reimagine is for everybody in the space, out of the space. And our goal really to educate that and highlight, Bitcoin's impact, crypto's impact. So let's get into the company that you work for. Can you talk a little bit more about what Huobi does as an exchange and the importance that you guys bring to the table and the value that you add to your end user?
Yeah, sure. So of course, in the really beginning, right, Huobi is an 8-year-old exchange, and that's actually something special in itself, right? You can see a lot of crypto moves fast. There's cryptos dying out every day. There's new cryptos springing up every day. There's exchanges getting closed down. There's policy. But the fact that Huobi has been resilient and has been alive for so long, it just shows that this company actually has something that people need, right? And what is the thing that people need? Of course, in the beginning, the most basic is fiat to crypto, right? We help you get crypto. We help you turn your cash or credit card into cryptocurrencies. That's the one thing. And the second thing is why people want to get into crypto is all the amazing projects, all the amazing tokens that, that represent the projects out there. Huobi gives you access to that, right? We are an exchange. We literally get you on, we try to get the best assets. We do our due diligence to make sure that it's not some like vaporware or some coin that's going to scam people and run away. We try our best to do due diligence for you, and then we give you access to these tokens, right? So that's what we do. But of course, Huobi's more than that. And by being in the game so early, and a lot of players in Korea, in China, and Japan, we had access to all the major primary, big players in the Asian market, right? And Asia was a huge start. Satoshi Nakamoto, right? They say he's from Japan, right? Asia was a huge start for the creation and the growth of Bitcoin. So by being in that space, Huobi has really developed an entire ecosystem, right? So whether it be DeFi products, NFTs, public chains, DAOs, as you said, or even now in our more traditional products, such as asset management, brokerage, venture capital, Huobi has an entire ecosystem that we have very experienced and very long-term players that in each of these parts. And that's what makes the ecosystem great. It's not a new thing, right? We've been building this for years. And that's why I think Huobi Group is a little bit different than other exchanges. We don't just focus on that one product.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's there are multiple exchanges out there. What's going on in kind of the exchange world, right? You have your top players like yourself, and then you have a bunch of other little, exchanges around the world. There's exchanges popping up. What have you seen kind of the trend? Are there more exchanges coming out? Is there a condensed, environment of them kind of slimming down to a select few and leaving the market share up to Huobi and others?
Yeah. So you can kind of think of it like this, right? So we'll just say a couple years ago, right? Not exact, but a couple years ago, there's no real regulation, right? Crypto's a little bit new. Exchanges are kind of operating out of, Seychelles or whatever, Cayman Islands. There's no real regulation on what the exchanges can or cannot do, right? And then because it's in the web, it's in the, the metaverse, right? Anyone can access these exchanges, right? So then anyone can be an exchange. Anyone can have these tokens, anyone can buy and sell. But as the trend goes on, as there's more mainstream adoption, as governments are hiring, these cryptocurrency divisions, right? They're adding these, special teams to kind of dictate or create, laws for cryptocurrencies. As they're doing this, there's a new regulated policy. So you're going to see the trend is these exchanges are going to have to go and get licenses to operate in these countries, right? There's so many countries around the world. Before there's no regulation, it's a free playground. It's a Wild West, just get as many users as you can. But now it's like, okay, it's legit now. It's an asset, right? You can see in the US, they're regulating ETFs now, right? So it's like, it makes it legitimized. So exchanges also have to quote unquote legitimize, right? We need to get the licenses needed. We need to follow the right rules to operate in each country. So that's going to be the trend. The short answer to your question is, I believe that in the future, there's going to be regulation on all exchanges, right? Every country is going to have this policy, have this kind of, management to see what's going on, right? What these exchanges are doing. It's a lot of outflow of money, right? It's a lot of inflow and outflow of capital. So I think the regulated exchanges are definitely going to survive. And then of course, there's going to be more with the regulation, there's going to be these more boutique gray zone underground exchanges like, all right, you don't need to do anything, we'll just let you trade. But of course, they might get shut down, they might die out, they might not be as safe as, a regulated exchange. But, regulation is definitely the trend and the way to go.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's important, right? We need some guidance. We need to operate efficiently, effectively, and not only that, safely, security, right? Making sure that all measures are, all these hacks that we hear about. How do you guys manage kind of the cybersecurity and protection of the Huobi exchange? Obviously, we see these headlines and people are nervous to jump on exchanges. You guys are, the safest kind of exchange that's out there, at least to beyond the standards that you would hope to have, right? How much pride do you guys take in kind of managing that process on the security side?
Sure. You mentioned security, and that's really just one of our main differentiating factors from other exchanges. Because nowadays, before it was like a fight for who could get the best tokens, right? But now everyone can get the best tokens, right? So it's really about security. After you have those tokens, after the customers come into your exchange, how do you protect them? How do you provide an environment that they feel comfortable holding? You can go to sleep at night with as many your great crypto wins and not be scared, right? So for us, I think it's really in the history of Huobi with the founders. They're a very technical team, right? I would just say even earlier on, Huobi has lacked in marketing, right? You haven't seen us have crazy marketing campaigns around the world. We've been really focusing our resources and our energy and our infrastructure on that security. And we're very proud to boast, Huobi is one of the only exchanges that has never been hacked or never had a security incident in 8 years, right? So technical infrastructure is always number one on our minds when we're building something new, right? It's not about getting users. It's not just about how to get as many people in as possible. It's really about, let's build it safe first. Let's have the infrastructure. Let's have this foundation. And then with this foundation, we can bring them in, right? And then for us, we have very strict KYC, especially since we are here very, very closely with regulatory policies. KYC is very important, right? A country wants to, manage or take care of their own people, right? So you need very strict KYC to do this. We don't try to do the gray zone, answer the question, allow you to use VPN type thing. We really focus on that to get the right users.
And talking about global strategy, that's your role. You're managing director there, handling that, which is, a critical component to growth and making sure that you guys are ahead of the curve. And not only that, providing solutions and working with the market and your end user base. How do you focus? What's the strategy, I guess, to operate in specific regions? What have you noticed from the Americas to the Asias to Africa? How does that play into Huobi's strategy, for the long term?
Okay. So I think with strategy, you can break it down into two parts, right? One is the regulatory part. We have to work with authorities, we have to work with regulation, then you can operate, right? And then the second part is the product, right? You got to give users what they want. So it's really about finding the balance between these two things. And that's how you got to have the quote unquote perfect exchange, right? The perfect business. So with regulators, they're different. They're all different, right? Every regulator, some of them we have good relationships. Some of them have stronger relationships with our competitors. They might add some unnecessary hoops for us to jump through. So we work with a lot of regulators, of course, in Korea and Japan. Earlier, we were the only ones with the license, right? We work very closely with them from the beginning. So it's easier for us to integrate, to operate in there, right? That's one end. So for regulators, it's really about finding, there's areas where there is no regulation, right? Then we could just freely operate and that's not against the rules. And there's areas where they require very strict, like for example, we'll just say the US, right? For the US, there's a lot of different, at first it wasn't as regulated, right? And then afterwards they had a lot of different laws and a lot of different things like that. So in the US, we definitely work closely with them, but it's just a longer process, right? The US is a very developed market. Yeah, we're all American, right? We know what you need to go through, right? To get something passed. But for example, the US, we have a trust license, right? That means that we can have custody of assets and we would only do that service, right? We can have trust, we can have custody, but we won't do trading there, right? It's kind of like the same type of thinking with every market, right? And then the second thing is about the product. And that's really just finding what people need, right? For example, in Europe, in UK, we have a large customer base of institutional customers, right? Asset managers, hedge funds, this type of stuff. So then for there, we want the best trading products. We want more advanced trading products. We want to give them data analytics for them to make the right investment decisions, right? That type of stuff. For Southeast Asia, it's really more retail user oriented, right? So in the retail markets, we like, for example, GameFi is hot right now. In Southeast Asia, they all want to get into GameFi, right? It's fun, they can make money, right? So then we'll develop our GameFi products out there in South America, Southeast Asia, right? So it's really about finding that balance.
Nice. And I think, product market fit, you guys are definitely listening to that, some feedback, which is great. What are you seeing kind of globally, and this at a high level, retail and institutional? A lot of institutional players. Is it more retail at the moment?
Yeah, I think institutions are flooding in. Of course, capital-wise, institutional is gonna definitely take the lead, right? The amount of capital they're bringing in is like, one institution could cover thousands of users, right? So institutional is definitely every institution. I mean, not every, but the majority of institutions who have not been looking into crypto before are starting to have these, crypto researchers are starting to have crypto investments as part of their portfolio. This is definitely a huge trend that we're looking for in the next 2 years, especially like hedge funds, quant trading funds, high volume, high frequency trading funds, these type of stuff. They really want to get into it because the volatility in crypto is too attractive, right? They got space to play, right? And then retail users, I think retail, especially like you see lately, like Twitter, even like Burger King, I think recently had an ad out with crypto, right? It's becoming more mainstream. As it becomes more mainstream, retail users are more comfortable with it, right? So I guess it's a worldwide thing. I don't see one more than the other. I see both parties really running forward and really understanding, really wanting crypto lately. Yeah.
Definitely. And we're going to touch on some of that community aspect of it, NFTs, which you're a holder of, DAOs, which is, social networking and bringing people human coordination. So it's going to be a great discussion. And I think you have a lot to say there. My next question around Huobi is, you're not only an exchange, and you touched on this briefly. You guys, make investments, and I think you have other programs. Can you touch on a little bit of the programs? Because I think ultimately that fosters crypto, right? That fosters blockchain technology. That's not just buying and selling and just an exchange. You guys are adding value back to the network, back to the community, back to the industry. Can you touch a little bit on what you guys do outside of just the exchange?
Yeah, sure. With programs, it's a very good thing to talk about. It's a very good thing you mentioned that, because that goes hand in hand with user education, right? It's like, to bring people into the crypto world, you got to educate them, right? Some people don't even know you can split a Bitcoin in half or something, like they think, oh, I can't afford a Bitcoin. They don't know a lot about, adopting, using these crypto products, especially if you want DeFi products, right? It's even more complicated. You got to link like a MetaMask, for example. You got to link that to your wallet. You got 12 words, like you got to hide, right? Yeah. And that's access to thousands of dollars. People are not comfortable with that, right? So it's really about this user education process, right? And then we go to programs. So in order to foster an ecosystem, if you think of traditional finance, well, who comes first? The startups, right? You got to have more startups. You got to have more ideas and innovation and people willing to come and share their ideas, right? And you got to, as a big kid, as a big player, we got to support them, right? We got to help them out. We got to give them, money and the support and the insights that we've learned to help them build bigger and greater things, right? So for our programs, like for example, we had a $10 million DeFi fund, not DeFi, GameFi fund, a $10 million GameFi fund. Yeah, that's exactly just for that. We want these game developers to come in, share your gaming insights with the crypto world, right? We give you money, we give you, an office or the guidance, we give you like a coach, a mentor, we help you like build this, right? And then we have our DeFi fund, of course, that's really going to be investing in the DeFi projects. But there's all stages, right? There's like token projects, which might be literally a team of 8 people. There's these more, established projects that we have partnerships, collaborations with. And then, of course, there's these startups. Maybe it's just someone with a good idea. We want to give them a chance, right? And that's the beauty of crypto. That's what crypto is about. We want to really be pushing that forward.
No, I mean, we align, here at Mousebelt, same thing. We run accelerators, incubators. We have a dev team, right, and providing development support really to those teams that are building, actually delivering. And, we're trying to do our best on that front to make sure that everyone succeeds. So now thank you for highlighting that. And I kind of want to stick around this region, this regional discussion, adoption. And it's mainly around like governments. You guys obviously go hand in hand with some of the governments worldwide. What role do governments play in the growth of Bitcoin or crypto?
Yeah, I mean, at first, right? So before, the role of governments were non-existent, right? They didn't know what to do. They're not just going to set regulations without learning about it, right? And then all of a sudden, the governments had this like bad sentiment, right? This bad sentiment that, oh no, the government's coming. We got to shut down. We can't operate, right? They're going to ban everything, right? And then now, actually, I think the sentiment has actually changed, right? Governments, for us, we see they're not there to stop you. They're not there to halt crypto. They're actually there to support you, right? They're giving you the laws. They're letting you have the access to operate in their country if you just listen to the rules, right? And that's normal, right? You got to follow the rules. we think it's pretty normal. So I think it went from like non-existent to like this evil person to like they're here to actually support you, right? So if government passes regulation and supports the different funds and cryptos, stuff like that, then we can operate. Institutions are going to be pumping more capital into crypto. And that's going to help the entire ecosystem overall. Whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, or any of the altcoins, overall the ecosystem is getting more capital in. I mean, we're at 3 trillion TVL right now, right? Total. So it's crazy. Not TVL, but 3 trillion total. Market cap. Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think you're right. At first, they weren't part of the equation. Then they were kind of against it. And in crypto and Bitcoin in general, these, maxis as well, it's like anti-establishment. But I think now with the ETFs coming out, and we'll touch on that a little bit. But what do you think, like in some of these regions, right? Argentina, Paraguay, Brazil, right? They're all Panama. They're all showing interest. Even Mexico. The president isn't showing interest, but the cabinet and like the rest of the the representatives within the politicians are showing interest. What do you think about that? Like, you think that's kind of a solid sign with kind of increased interest is going to flourish in other regions, maybe outside of the developed world?
Yeah. So, the other regions, crypto, okay, so in the developed regions, right? Some people like crypto, like, I'm going to buy some cryptos, get a Lambo. That's like a basic one, right? And then, of course, in more developed regions, like, for example, the US, it's like, okay, this is an asset. This is a capital. This is, a token of value. We got to deal with this, right? We got to use it. We got to take advantage of it. Now, let's talk about the developed regions, right? We can use the Venezuela example or some areas in Africa. Their inflation is in the thousands of %, right? Their currency is unusable. So in these places, you can see maybe they're not investing on altcoins per se, but they're using the cryptos as as a real token, right? As a currency that they're actually buying, selling, making trades, sending remittances, sending money to their families. They're actually using it as a the utility value of the token, right? And that's great, right? That's great. That shows that crypto can be used for its real purpose, right? And then with this adoption, right? If the currency is not usable, then countries are buying in, right? So it's like if you think institutions buying in is a lot of money, now imagine country level money, right? The money of an entire nation, right? If that's buying in, then crypto is going to take it to the next level. Of course, governments are going to be worried, right? Everyone wants control, right? You don't want to lose control of your finances, right? That's crazy. But so that's why you have the conversation of CBDCs, right? What are CBDCs going to do? Is it going to destroy Bitcoin, or is it going to complement Bitcoin, or is it going to support Bitcoin, right? This is the question that we're going to be asking. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's good for the entire ecosystem.
And talking about control, monetary policy, right? Like handling all that. I was in Miami for the Bitcoin conference, and
Okay.
I think it was El Salvador. I think announced like they were going to make it legal tender, I believe. What are your thoughts there? In what do you think about this decision for El Salvador to make Bitcoin legal tender?
Overall, I mean, as a crypto holder, I think that's great, right? It's pushing the thing in the right direction. It's showing that, okay, this is not just for investors. Crypto is actually legitimate enough and safe enough and secure enough that a country can use as tender, right? But I think for now, they really need to look at how they want to use it, right? Because the properties of crypto is that it's decentralized. It's not easily to be controlled, right? You can't control the supply. You can't control the value. It does have volatility, right? It does have volatility. If you're using it as legal tender and then some other, everyone has access to it, you have no control. It could tank. It could shoot up, right? It's that does pose some risk as an entire country. So I think that's one thing that obviously they're definitely evaluating. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on that.
Another question that I've asked others too, like, why do you think they just haven't maybe adopted a stable coin? Like, why Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean,
talking about volatility, like you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, with stable coins, I mean, there's some better stable coins, just USDT, USDC, right? But even though those, some are regulated, right? Some are backed by, capital. And with the things that happen, how safe really are they, right? I mean, I think they're safe. I mean, for the short term, for more of a small, short term and small size volume, I think it's okay. But I think to support an entire country, then you really got to think about that if the supply is enough.
And do you think like it's unique that that country made it legal tender when about 70% of the citizens like protested against it? What are your thoughts there? Maybe it touches a little bit on education, but 70% were not in favor of Bitcoin. So what do you think kind of that dynamic poses, I guess, on the government, the president, right, and the citizens? And then not only that, like us here in the States thinking Bitcoin's great, and then they make it legal tender, but like the citizens aren't that they're not in favor of it.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. The easy answer: education, right? A lot of people don't really know what it is, right? And then, for example, if I'm a local citizen with a lot of cash or a lot of savings, I've been doing this for 20, 30 years, 40 years, right? Then it's scary, right? Well, you're going to switch this out. What's going to happen to my money that I've been working so hard for, right? The other one is, I think, access. Sure, you can legalize it or you can make it your tender, but you got to give everyone the right tools and channels to get it, right? They have to understand it and they have to access it, right? So I think that's one thing, they might be too far removed from it, right? You don't understand it, you don't have the access, it's difficult for you to support it, right? That's very normal. I think on the other end, I mean, I don't know, don't quote me on this, but I think there's other things to consider, right? I mean, with any decision, it's not just about that one thing. With the crypto decision or the Bitcoin, as crypto as currency decision, it might not just be about payments or currency. There might be a bigger vision, right? Maybe they want to say that, look, the world is moving in favor of blockchain. That's going to be the future of technology. Why don't we become the hub for that, right? Why don't we have this new policy that attracts the best talent, the best crypto talent around the world to our country and start building this, right? Just like a while back, Israel, right, was a major hub for tech startups, right? They had the intelligent people, they had the resources, the infrastructure to build that up. Perhaps that's what El Salvador wants to do, right? They already have a high use case. They already know that it's usable. Maybe they're trying to build this hub, right? There's other reasons, I think.
Yeah.
Aside from currency, yeah.
No, for sure. And I think you're right. I think even Pakistan as well is trying to do like certification programs with some of the protocols that we know, just to keep that tech talent, there within the region, and get everybody kind of used to it. So that's great. And then do you think it's like odd that that country, and we've been getting everybody's thoughts that publicly he considers himself a dictator, and now he's choosing Bitcoin to make it legal tender? Do you think that has what do you think about that? Is that weird?
I'll just say no comment on that one.
Yeah.
Not really. I haven't been really following that. Yeah.
Well, it's on his Twitter. We found it. It's on his Twitter, and he like publicizes that, and we're just kind of like, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Like, the dynamic is a little too much to absorb when we understand Bitcoin. We think it's great, and this country is trying to push forward. But is it an experiment? Yes, and I guess time will tell.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have enough background information to know everything he did, but I would just say from what I know, if by testing it, by even experimenting with it, I think that's a step in the right direction. You gotta someone's got to test it, right?
Exactly. and I mentioned those other countries, and they're showing interest because of that. Brazil, Paraguay, Argentina, which you mentioned, like high inflation, and I think it kind of makes sense, and we'll figure it out. And another thing that was public, like the IMF labeling like cryptoization as a threat to global economy. Do you think it is a threat? And do you think not only to El Salvador but to the wider global economy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very bold. And sorry, I'll just throw us in. I think I have to leave at 1 or 1:05. I think I have another interview.
Is that like 10 minutes?
Yeah, like 15 minutes.
Cool.
So maybe we could adjust the rate a little bit on that. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. To your question. So with anything new, there's going to be supporters and then naysayers, right? That's always going to happen. For me, I'm very bullish. I think that if every country can standardize the right regulatory policies and use it for not for everything, but there's aspects of crypto that are safe, that are easy, that's not going to replace or destroy or disrupt your organization that you have. I think if you use it correctly, yes, it's fine. But of course, as crypto coming out, it's really going head to head against every country's legal currency. And I think the main thing is its transferability, its ease of transfer, its ease of sharing. It's really hard. It's very difficult to restrict, this kind of money inflow and outflow. I mean, to be honest, at the end of the day, it's all about capital restriction, right? They want to have a degree of management over capital going in and out of the country, and that's normal, right? That's normal. That you got to control, you got to stabilize your economy on that. And if you're only using these type of cryptocurrencies, perhaps it might disrupt that, right? But I guess it just depends, right? There's new technologies to help with this.
Mm-hmm. No, fantastic. And these are all great insights. And, we've been highlighting this across all of our speakers. And so we appreciate kind of your feedback and your thoughts and opinions. And, I guess we'll figure out what happens, in the upcoming months, years. So again, like I mentioned, NFTs, DAOs is around this theme. Let's jump into NFTs, which has kind of been a fantastic boom. We did an NFT event actually in spring, and maybe we were a little premature, but obviously things have been riding high. You're an NFT holder. What fascinates you about NFTs?
Yeah, I think it's the art aspect, right? It's really about the art aspect. It's about the gaming aspect. Okay, so there's different types of NFTs, right? For example, we'll just say the best use case, like supply chain, right? It's authorization, right? If I collect sneakers personally, I've always collected sneakers, but yeah, I mean, StockX did something very similar, right? They have the RFIDs to kind of show you if a sneaker is legit, right? Now with NFTs, the same thing, right? If we can have NFTs, if we can have this kind of tracking or this kind of serial number, if you will, on chain, then you can kind of track everything, where it came from, who's involved, what happened, this type of stuff. So that's supply chain. But why I really like it, it's really about the art aspect, right? I think in the beginning, many people may feel that crypto is either tech or business. Is one of those, right? I mean, it is, right? It's either, you're either a tech guy or you're some kind of businessman. Oh, I didn't study business. I don't want to play with it. I'm going to lose money, right? But it's actually, crypto's more than that, right? We mentioned ecosystem a lot because crypto is about bringing people in from all over the world. I think it's something that it's a bridge for nations and cultures, right? So NFTs is the perfect thing for that, right? Because NFTs, any artist can share their vision and have it easily shared, right? A lot of artists are afraid to, or not afraid, just don't have the channels, right, to share their art with the world, right? There's not that many channels out there, but NFTs kind of make this possible. And by storing it on the chain and having it last forever, right? That just means something in itself. I think it's going to contribute to more and more artists. It's going to contribute to more and more people being in the art world, right? So we can have a more balanced, society, right? We have business, we have finance, we have art. That's why I like it.
No, that's fantastic. And you brought up a couple good points that I've been thinking about and been discussing. And it's really the adoption aspect, right? We've kind of been talking about like currency adoption, transactional adoption, utility adoption, DeFi was, it's its own target market and use case. And that was very complicated for people to, leverage these financial services, right? And now we have NFTs in the creator economy. And now that's allowing people to kind of, get onboarded and really kind of understand what blockchain and what crypto does, and it kind of an easy way, more relatable aspect, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, make it even easier. A lot of people didn't have wallets or anything like that, right? But then they want this NFT. Now they're going to do the research. They're like, oh, this thing is so cool, right? A Bitcoin, you can't see it, right? But an NFT, like, oh, I want this art. That's my favorite artist that represents me. Now I want to go create this wallet. I want to do the research about what crypto is, right? So it's bringing people in this way too, like you said.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I was just listening to something about kind of it being tangible in a ways, right? Like you said, crypto's one aspect, one dynamic of it, and NFTs more ownership, more understandable and a little bit easier to kind of gauge like what it is and what you're buying and kind of where you're at actually in the industry, right? And so that's right. Great. And so do you see, you're an NFT holder, like do you see some of these art collectibles and paintings and musicians and stuff, but more specifically to collectibles, CryptoPunks, Bored Apes, do you see those as a new store of value, just as Bitcoin is on the crypto side? Do you see CryptoPunks and some of these other collectibles as stores of value?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely see them as stores of values. I'm not saying they're not risky stores of values. There's definitely high volatility, but they're definitely stores of values. I mean, I think the way you can look at it is this, right? Like, I'll just use sneakers, right? I like to collect sneakers. This sneaker is red and black and it's $500. It's the exact same Jordan sneaker or whatever, the Nike Dunk, and it's in blue and now it's only $100, right? Why is this one $500? This one's $100, right? But no matter what, over the years, this one is still $500 or more, right? So by that's the global consensus, right? The demand for it. So it's just like Bitcoin. Bitcoin's value is because of demand, and NFTs is the same thing. If it can be something that people can capture what people want, capture what people like, if whether it's a piece of art or they're a fan of, the artist behind it, or what's the symbol that it's representing. If there's demand behind it, then that's a value. So I think that's how I see it. Of course, that can fluctuate, but yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if you read, but Adobe like put out just like a couple weeks ago. They have an option, right, on their Photoshop and kind of in their software where they can the creator, has an option to make it an NFT. What do you think about that? Where it includes a content creation certificate, and not only that, it takes all their digital identity in a way and embeds it into the metadata.
Yeah, and this is another thing about how to get everyone involved, right? So it's like you think crypto is this complicated thing, and it's hard to get into, it's hard to access, hard to understand. But with these kind of apps, they're more user friendly, right? We're finally bringing this high technical aspect to the community, right, and letting everyone be involved. I think participation, whether it's giving them a $5 airdrop or NFT, or helping them make a wallet, that's what's going to boost this to the next level. People are having, they're touching it, they're understanding it, they're feeling it, they're looking at it every day. And this is just exactly that, right? You're letting these artists help them become part of the crypto world.
Exactly. And this will kind of, I know we got a few minutes to wrap up here, but we'll kind of conclude on the DAO section, right? This kind of leads into the community participation. Have you been following DAOs? And I know there's a variety of DAOs. Is there anything that kind of sparks your interest?
Yeah, DAOs get really complicated, but I think overall it's about this decentralized governance, right? That's what crypto was first created for. It's about creating this new system that's not centralized, that doesn't have one power or one man or one woman controlling the entire system, right? I think that's the sentiment of DAOs. Of course, we're still in a very developmental early stage, but I think it's a good idea, right? There's earlier projects, and don't quote me, I think it was either Compound or Uniswap. The DAO, it wasn't set up right? The governance was too hard, right? There's no way you can get that many tokens that you can actually make a decision, right? And they're saying, oh, that's BS, right? They're not really governing. Of course, the founding team has all the tokens, right? It's the same. But actually, I think, with oracles, with things coming out, DAOs are being more to the people, right? I think as we go on, there are going to be certain, not everything, but certain projects or certain, DeFi or financial, products that can be fully, independent without a governing body. So I think we're still in the very developmental stage, but I think that will be the future, but not for everything, obviously.
Do you think
specific products? Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's going to be like the new legal structure, like organizational structure of, like a business, right? Not taking over your LLCs and corporations, but do you see it as another entity that, is going to do business amongst other DAOs, and not only that, with other traditional institutions?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's going to be legal tax. We're going to do it step by step, right? But I think in the future, there are going to be certain DAOs where they created a tech and it's just for the people, right? It's just out there. It's like, for example, we'll just say, I think Craigslist, right? When they first started, it's just a tool, right? It's just a tool for everyone to share their ideas, to be in a marketplace, right? They didn't really need to make money off of it. They created it for the community. I think DAOs are going to kind of run in that direction. But yeah, I think if government wants control, the point of a DAO is that it can't be controlled, right? So if the DAO is properly executed, then yeah, it would avoid these kind of issues.
Awesome. And I think we'll wrap it up here. Jeff, we appreciate your time. Really, we just kind of covered a wide spectrum of what's happening in the market, really. Government influence and adoption. We just touched on NFTs, right, and that community and engagement. And not only that, DAO structures and how those are popping up, and probably the next boom is right around the corner. And, I think, as you mentioned, governance is going to play a critical part to all of this. And where can people learn more about Huobi Exchange?
Yeah, we always have updates on our Twitter at Huobi Global, and then of course Huobi.com, right? We have Huobi Learn. We have our own educational platform out there where we try to bring people to the basics of everything, right? So I think from our website, we're going through actually a huge UX UI change that's going to come out soon too. So I'll hint that, but yeah, we'll make it easier for people to access, easier for people to use.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate your time. We hope to have you back. For everybody tuning in, this is Jeff May, Global Strategy, right? Head of Global Strategy.
Yeah. And can I give a shout out? When is this going to air?
This is going live the week of 17th through the 19th.
Okay. Yeah. So actually, if you want to include this in there, you can cut it out if you need to. But it's actually our 8th year anniversary. So Huobi's turning 8 this year. We're having a huge promotion on this. we're having a space ticket raffle. So we're going to send one of our users to space. Literally, we're going to get them on a rocket with one of our partners to space, right? So then it's kind of with what we talked about earlier. The point of this theme is also to show that it doesn't matter what country you're in, who you are, how much money you have. We want to give you this chance to experience, this innovation, this special experience, right? And that's what Huobi Exchange wants to do too, right? We want to make it easy for you to experience all these, special assets, whether it be DeFi, NFTs, anything like that. So it's all in this theme. And then we're also giving away millions in cryptos and NFTs. So yeah, we'll try to get you on a special whitelist, get you a special NFT box or something like that.
Awesome. Well, you hear it first, folks. Make sure you follow that. And 8 years is a long time in this industry. So glad to have seen the ride and been through the journey. I use the exchange myself. So we hope to have you back, Jeff. And thank you for participating.
Definitely. I'm always ready. It's a great talk.
All right. Thank you for everybody tuning in. Hopefully you're having a good time, and we hope to see you again.